Hey guys, it's Video Vince with Camera Exchange. So I got a tutorial for you guys today. I am actually going to teach you guys how to balance a gimbal. Now I have here a Crane version 2, and the Crane version 2 is actually quite old, but the principles of balancing a 3-axis gimbal are basically the same. So let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing I want to start off with is the camera. So when you have the camera, you want to make sure that everything is off of the camera that you are not going to use while recording. So for instance, I have these strap blocks here and I'm going to remove those. And the reason being is any little weight on the camera while balancing can throw it off. And we just do not want to throw that balance off because it could just get a little bit frustrating after quite some time. So let's go ahead and take these off. Boom, so those are off. So another thing that I wanted to mention as well is if you are using a zoom lens, you want to make sure that you set that zoom to the focal length that you are using while recording. So let's say if you have a 24-70 and you want to set it to a 35 while recording, make sure you set that before putting it on top of the gimbal. And the reason is if you are using a zoom lens and if you want to zoom out to 24 millimeters, that it's going to throw the balance off of the gimbal and we don't want that. So make sure that you have it set to 35 millimeters, and if you want to set it to 24 afterwards, you're going to have to readjust for it, just so you guys know, okay? So let's go ahead and throw the camera on the gimbal. So every gimbal manufacturer is a little bit different. Some gimbals have quick release plates to move this guy. This one is integrated into the gimbal itself, so it should be okay. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to find the center weight of balance of the camera when we put it on. So the first thing you could tell is that it's a little too back heavy, right? So what we want to do is we want to move it forward, and we don't want it to move in any sort of way. So what we are going to do is we are going to adjust this bottom plate right here. We're just going to loosen it and move it forward or back in the necessary direction. So it's a little too much of an adjustment. Okay, it's still moving too much back, too much forward. Boom, just like that. So go ahead and tighten that section. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to start balancing the axes. So we have 3 of them. We got this front guy right here, and you are going to move along to the back, and then we're going to move along to the bottom, okay? So the first one that we are going to do is going to be this guy. So what we want to do is we want to balance that. So as you can tell, if we point it straight up, it's a little too back heavy. So what we are going to do is we are going to adjust this slide right here. So we'll do this that way. And the rule of thumb too is whichever way it is falling, make sure you just move it in the opposite direction. So that's a little bit better, but could be more perfect. Boom, just like that. So while holding that axis, while holding the other axes, you can tell that it stays straight up. That's what we want. This is how we want the camera to be. So that is nice and tightened. So now, when we move to this back, again, you can tell that it dips to the left. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to move it in the opposite direction. So now it's dipping just a little bit to the right. Opposite direction, small adjustments is key. And we want to get it as perfect as possible. So boom, just like that. Okay, so tighten that lock down, and now we're going to move to the bottom. And the main way to balance this guy is you want to point it straight out. And if it dips to the left or right, what we want to do is we want to move this slider in the opposite direction again. And the best way to balance that is just pointing it straight out and seeing which way that it falls, okay? So working with gimbals can be a little bit frustrating. Even after working 1.5 years with them, I do find myself getting frustrated with them, but with enough patience and enough practice, it'll become second nature. Again, a little bit too much still to the left, it is falling. No issues, just keep adjusting for it. So still falling. Again, just small adjustments. And make sure you take it slow. You don't want to make big adjustments because otherwise you'll just get frustrated and it'll start to get confusing. So this axis is not really moving much, and that's exactly how we want it. We don't want it dipping to the left or to the right, and that is perfect. So that is perfectly balanced without it on. Let me just go ahead and set it just to make sure. That is as close as perfect as I can get it. So let's turn the motors on. It'll adjust all the motors, and boom, that is perfect. So the reason why we want to balance the camera on the gimbal before turning the gimbal on is because what we are doing is, or what the gimbal is doing is that these motors are assisting the balance. We do not want to throw this camera on top of the gimbal because if we do that, it'll just completely ruin the motors and it'll start to shake and you'll get a bunch of weird things going on with it, and that's what you don't want, because if we ruin these guys, that'll be an expensive cost to fix them, and that's just what you don't want to do. So balancing the gimbal before turning it on will help out the gimbal a lot. But that's going to wrap up this tutorial. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop those questions in the comment section down below. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We'll check you guys out next time.